control it in the same direction, and wherever my cursor goes, that little dot follows it. So it basically manipulates the cursor up here. Little tight tongue there, don't worry about that. So continuing on, this is a pretty basic tools, but I make sure going in. Don't worry that I skipping over some more than others because some you will use more than others. I can guarantee you. But some you still need to know the basic principle. Even if it's easy to use, you still need to know the basic principles. Like the brush. The brush is a very, let me take it off a grayscale because that was getting a little annoying. That I couldn't place the red. I will teach you that a little later. I like the red. I'll keep the red for now. My beautiful black is now stuck to the image. I'll teach you about that a little later. My black is now stuck to the image. How's that? I was on the brush. Now, if I go to the brush, there's nothing else on the brush. But you now see some little icons up here. Some you have different brush extensions. But listen, you have different types of brushes. What I can tell you right now is I won't show you all of them, but I will show you some and how to use the brush. Like this controls the size of the brush, pretty self-explanatory. If you look over here, you'll see the size of the brush pretty well. But if I turn the size up, you'll see the size of the brush got a little bigger. Turn the size up again, the size of the brush got bigger, way bigger. So let's see this. If I go to white, I'm gonna make the brush a little bit smaller. Go to white, and I just click. It would take more than one click to pass over it. If you lower the softness, it will take a little longer to get that pure white, but it also leaves a nice background to it. No, just say a less sharp. Like you can see the one over here with the hardness turn up high. You will see it has sharp edges. Let me just zoom in for you. Have it up. You see sharp edges, but you see a smoother edge. Yeah, it's a very smooth edge. So that is pretty self-explanatory. The harder the brush is, the less time it takes to color something in, but it will leave sharper marks to the image. But if you lower the softness or hardness, then it will take more time to actually gain the color, but it will leave the edges. So if I do something like this, I will change it to red, and I will try to clear some of the edges off of this. And I'm now clearing some of the harder edges off of it. You see a little ghost shadow in the background because the hardness is not turned up to high. If I want to, I can just keep going over and over until I completely remove it. But if I turn the hardness up too hard, it would just actually just run straight through it. So it's basically simple in its own regards, and it's not nothing too difficult. Going back to my little brushes, nothing too difficult. So that's the brush tool. Pencil tool is even more self-explanatory, but I rather y'all use the pencil tool with a more of a tablet device, or you use it with a very nice keyboard, so to say. Not keyboard, a mouse. Like I could start writing my name. Let me write my name. I using a mouse. Is no, it won't be very well done very well, but you get the point. It's a pencil. You can change the size of the pencil lead here and everything. Also, yes, these are the brushes. I didn't explain the brushes properly. Um, Go back to the brushes. Yes, the hardness controls how much time and the edges of your image. And also, if you right click, you will also get the same menu up again. So I will pick this brush and you get different effects. And you can see how the brush looks up here. So it's basically the same thing again. It is not too hard to do, but it is a challenge to master. Again, okay, and this is the pencil tool, pretty self-explanatory, color replacement tool. This tool is, let's say this, it's a bit advanced. I don't really want to show you all this as of yet. I won't show you all the color replacement tool as yet, but the current tool at the present moment will be sufficient. Like the brush and the pencil can do the same thing as the color replacement tool, but if you understand how to use the color replacement tool, it'll also be easier to use as well. But I'll show you at a later date. Same thing with the healings and the spot brushing tool. So I'll go to mixing brush. Pretty self-explanatory again, but I don't really use it that much. But I know the basic principle of it again. Okay, so people who like to paint, this is for people who like to paint. This is to tell you how wet the brush will be. It'll tell you the load on the brush, and it's also tell you how much mix you want to do with it. Color, clean brush. So let me just put up the size of this, put up the hardness. You see if I click over here, nothing happening. If you look closely, you probably will see a little color mixing. Okay, let me just zoom in a little bit. Zoom in, zoom, I'm gonna zoom straight until I see the pixels. Right there, you can see, now you can see the pixels. And what this do, or does anyway, is mix around the pixels in the image and creating, this was a light red and this was a black, but now it creates almost like a ruby color right in the middle here. If I back away until I can't see the pixels no more, you can now barely see, but that now is a different color. And now you can see how really small the pixel is. But that is basically the mixing tool. It actually mixes 2 or 3 or 4 colors together depending on how you do it. I would recommend this really on photographs. I would recommend if you do it on if you're making a project on Photoshop directly, you can use it. But photographs have their own natural colors and they have way more pixels of colors to give it definition, and the mixing color would just won't do it justice. You could try it, but it won't do it justice. The clone stamp, one of my favorites. You can tell by the name clone. Let me put up the brush. Let me Alt Shift. You know the Alt, and it clones anything in sight. You could do this with pictures. You can do it with photographs. You can do this with anything. It clones anything in sight. So if I go back here on this red part and I try to clean up this, and I could clean it up, no problem, because it's cloning the red shape. So it's pretty easy. And I could get rid of these circles, bicircles. I get rid of these circles and it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, it clones. Remember the just remember the alt. Pattern stamp though is more advanced and you don't really need to know this as yet. If you want to get into Photoshop, you don't need to know this as yet. But it's an interesting tool to know nonetheless. But I won't show you that inside this one, this go around. History brush, you see, you keep seeing this. I keep going back in history, going back in history, going back in history. History brush, because current color mode doesn't matter. Yes, you have to make sure that the history brush actually match the mode you're in. But the history brush is a very picky tool, but also I don't know when did I ever use a history brush. I think I never actually get to use it. But the history brush is a nice tool nonetheless. But for starting out, it is not really an ideal brush. Okay, this one is your next best friend. Let's see.